The WNBA is staring down a crisis that could erase nearly 3 decades of blood, sweat, and progress. After years of clawing its way into the public's consciousness, after building an audience that finally believed in women's basketball, the league now finds itself on the edge of the very thing it fought hardest against, oblivion. The whispers started small, talk of player frustration, of unfair pay, of leadership that doesn't listen. But those whispers have now grown into a roar. A player-led lockout looms, and if it happens, the league may never recover. Because when you pull the plug on momentum, when you silence a growing movement for even a single season, the world moves on without you. It took 27 long years for the WNBA to earn its respect, to make people care. From the grit of the 90s pioneers to the stardom of today's icons like Caitlin Clark and A'ja Wilson, the league has lived through ridicule, indifference, and constant comparison to the NBA. Yet it survived. It even thrived. But in 2026, that survival could end. Not because of a lack of talent or fans, but because of internal war. Nafisa Collier and Breanna Stewart, two of the WNBA's biggest names, are reportedly ready to take a stand that could stop the season before it begins. And somewhere in the background, NBA Commissioner Adam Silver is said to be watching every move, ready to step in and take control if the chaos gets out of hand. The irony is brutal. The WNBA finally has eyes on it. Ratings have soared, arenas have filled, and the energy surrounding the league feels electric. Yet, just as things are peaking, the players in the league office are pulling in opposite directions. It's not about whether the players deserve more money. Most agree they do. It's about timing, leverage, and power. The players want a fair share of the growing revenue pie. The owners say the league isn't profitable enough yet. But when pride replaces patience, no one wins. The 2024 and 2025 seasons proved women's basketball can be captivating, even thrilling. But all that goodwill is fragile. Lose one season and the audience disappears. Sponsors pull out, networks move on, fans forget. That's the cruel truth of modern sports. Attention is currency, and the WNBA can't afford to lose it. And at the center of this growing storm lies something darker, a shadow league waiting to seize its chance. Unrivaled, the player-owned startup co-founded by Collier and Stewart promises empowerment, transparency, and a new vision for women's basketball. On paper, it sounds inspiring. In reality, it looks like a coup. Because if the WNBA collapses in 2026, Unrivaled wins by default. No competition, no comparison, no oversight. Collier, Stewart, and Collier's husband, Alex Bazell, who manages operations behind the scenes, would suddenly hold all the cards. For Unrivaled to truly succeed, the WNBA has to fail, or at least go silent long enough for fans to look elsewhere. That's why the stakes are higher than ever. What some call a player revolution, others are calling sabotage disguised as empowerment. The business side of this drama only deepens the tension. The WNBA, half owned by the NBA, relies on shared resources and investment from its parent league. That means Adam Silver can't just sit back and watch the women's side implode. If the WNBA burns, it scorches the NBA's reputation with it. Billions of dollars in sponsorships and image branding tied to equality in sports could go up in flames. Silver has been quiet so far, allowing Commissioner Cathy Engelbert to manage things. But insiders believe that silence won't last. He's intervened before when scandal or instability threatened the NBA's credibility. And if he decides the WNBA's leadership can't contain the situation, he might step in, not as a partner, but as a takeover. That could stabilize the league in the short term, but it would also change everything about how women's basketball is governed. Once Silver takes control, there's no giving it back, and Cathy Engelbert, once seen as the WNBA's savior, is quickly running out of allies. When she took over, she promised structure, growth, and stability. To her credit, she delivered record revenues, new sponsors, and expansion franchises. But numbers don't tell the whole story. Players see her as distant, corporate, and out of touch with the culture of the game. Her cool professionalism worked in boardrooms but failed in locker rooms. When stars demanded transparency and empathy, they got spreadsheets and press statements instead. The divide between management and players grew wider, and now that gap is threatening to swallow the entire league. Engelbert may have built the most financially stable version of the WNBA yet, but if her players don't trust her, none of it matters. If the 2026 season is lost, so is her credibility and maybe her job. While the executives and veterans fight for control, one name continues to loom over everything: Caitlin Clark. Her arrival changed the league. She brought fans who'd never cared about women's basketball. She filled arenas, drove record merchandise sales, and made the WNBA must-see TV. But now, she's caught in the middle of a war she didn't start. If Clark sides with the players, she validates the rebellion. If she stands with the league, she becomes the face of the establishment. Either way, her choice could define the next decade of women's basketball. She's the most valuable player not just for her stats, but for her influence. Wherever she goes, fans follow. That makes her the ultimate bargaining chip, and the biggest target. Imagine the fallout if the league actually splits. 2 leagues, 2 ideologies, 1 fractured audience. Unrivaled would brand itself as the new age player-first movement, while the WNBA would cling to tradition and structure. Fans would be forced to pick sides, and sponsors would too. But there's a reality the rebellion seems to ignore. Money doesn't multiply. Nike, ESPN, Amazon, and CBS aren't going to double their budgets to fund 2 leagues. They'll choose one, and the other will die slowly. Running a league takes infrastructure, consistency, and billions in backing. Without that, Unrivaled's dreams of revolution could collapse as quickly as they rise. And if both leagues falter, the entire women's basketball movement might go with them. The saddest part is that this crisis didn't have to happen. The players aren't wrong for wanting more. The owners aren't wrong for wanting stability. But both sides forgot the one thing that made the WNBA special: unity. For years, the league's growth was fueled by a shared mission: to prove women's basketball belonged on the same stage as the men's. That mission united fans, players, and executives alike. Now that unity is gone. The 2026 lockout isn't just a labor dispute. It's a betrayal of that shared dream. And if the season disappears, it won't just be a lost year. It'll be a lost generation. The future now rests in the hands of 2 people: Adam Silver and Caitlin Clark. Silver holds the power to save the league from collapse. Clark holds the influence to keep fans from walking away. Together, they could pull the WNBA back from the edge. But if either falters, or worse, chooses self-preservation over leadership, the league's story ends not with a bang, but with silence. And silence is fatal in the sports world, because once fans move on, they don't come back. The WNBA's story has always been one of resilience, of women fighting for space in a world that never wanted to give it. But resilience has limits. If 2026 becomes the year of the lockout, the league's 27-year climb could come crashing down overnight. What happens next will decide whether the WNBA becomes a cautionary tale or a comeback story for the ages. So what do you think? Can the WNBA survive if its players and leaders keep tearing each other apart? Or will this lockout mark the end of women's basketball as we know it? Let's talk about it in the comments below. And if you want to see how this story unfolds, don't forget to like this video, subscribe, and hit the bell so you never miss the next chapter.